My name is Victoria. If you asked my sister Madison, she would say I'm just a blurry background in the perfect life she built for herself. No one remembers me at any party. No one knows I stood beside her in most family photos. Madison once said to my face, "You're pretty good with a camera, Vic. At least a blurry shadow is useful for holding it." I thought she was joking. But then, at Darlington High's end of year honors ceremony, Madison, cheer captain, and the senior class representative walked onto the stage, microphone in hand, gave her golden hair a slight toss, flashed a picture-perfect smile, and said clearly, "Thanks to my sister Victoria for always accidentally showing up in most of my high school photos." Always blurry, but very persistent. The students in the audience burst out laughing. What chilled me more was the quiet chuckle from the teacher's row. Even Mr. Rodriguez, who had taught me advanced math, nodded and smiled as if I were some harmless little joke. I sat in the fourth row, not close enough to be noticed, not far enough to miss a word Madison said. My hand gripped the camera strap, eyes fixed on the stage. I didn't feel sad. I felt cold, the kind of cold that freezes every cell in your body, because I realized something: I had tried to earn their acceptance by staying silent. But silence only made it easier for them to erase me. Madison left the stage to roaring applause. She high-fived her boyfriend Carter, lingering just off stage. I saw them look at each other, smiling in perfect satisfaction. Not one person glanced my way. No eyes bothered to check if I was even still sitting there, if I had heard it all. That night at dinner, I thought at the very least someone would mention the ceremony. Not to apologize, just to acknowledge it happened. But no. "Honey, you were absolutely radiant," my mom said, piling more spaghetti onto Madison's plate. "That joke about Victoria, sharp as ever," my dad added, not looking up from his phone. "Just having some fun, right, Vic?" Madison gave me a sideways glance and a faint smile, as if granting me the privilege of participating in family conversation. I didn't answer. I simply set my fork down, carried my plate to the sink, and quietly went upstairs. No one stopped me. No one asked if I was okay. That night, I lay in bed with the lights off, only the hallway glow slipping through the crack under my door. The room was silent, but my mind kept replaying Madison with the microphone. Her voice still rang in my ears, layered with the crowd's laughter, always blurry but very persistent. I remembered when I was 11 having my birthday party in the backyard. Madison got a brand new iPad. And me, I got Grandma's old wristwatch, the one she had planned to give Madison the year before, but Madison didn't want it. They called it a family heirloom. I smiled, thanked them, and wore it for a week straight. Back then, I believed that if I behaved they would see me. But now I know a shadow can't shine on its own, not when people keep turning the lights off. I arrived earlier than usual the next morning. The locker room behind the gym was still empty, the old heater humming faintly, the ceiling lights casting a dull yellow glow. At 6:40 a.m., Darlington High was so quiet I could hear the scrape of my shoelaces against the floor. I wasn't there because I felt like practicing. Truthfully, I hated volleyball. But Coach Shepard insisted I join because I had a good wingspan. I came because this was one of the few places I could hide from Madison, at least for a short while. I had just opened my locker when the main door's hinges creaked. Footsteps echoed, heavy, deliberate, and definitely not from anyone on the girls' team. I turned, water bottle in hand, and saw 3 figures step in. I recognized Jackson, Madison's new boyfriend. 2 other guys followed, all 3 wearing football team hoodies, hands in pockets, moving with a casualness that felt wrong. Jackson closed the door. No one spoke at first. I made for the side exit, but his voice stopped me. "The Queen's little sister hiding out here," he said, tilting his head, his tone stretched with mockery. I didn't answer. My grip on my bag strap tightened as I kept walking, but he stepped closer, blocking my path. "She says you've been getting a little out of line," he said, smirking. "Taking a lot of pictures lately, or just building evidence to play the victim next?" I stepped back. The taller guy slammed his palm against the metal lockers beside me. The sharp clang made me flinch. "I'm talking to you, Vic." I met Jackson's eyes steady, refusing to look down. "Big mistake." He closed the gap, the scent of mint gum mixing with worn leather. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper. "Madison doesn't need you." No one does. We're just here to make sure you remember your place. I didn't see the shove coming. My back slammed into the locker, my face hitting the sharp corner of an open door. A hard clack rang out bone on metal, and then pain surged white-hot from my temple down my jaw. Warm blood slid onto the collar of my sweater, bright red against the white. I didn't scream. I didn't have the air to... My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor. My vision blurred, but I still heard the sneering voices above me. Barely a tap, and she's like this one said. A real blur, another laughed. The back door banged open. I don't know when they left, only that the room fell silent again. I lay there, cheek pressed to the cold floor, the chemical tang of disinfectant thick in the air. Then hurried footsteps. A girl's voice shaken but clear. Victoria, oh my God, what happened? It was Erin, the volleyball team's co-captain, the only one who had ever asked if I wanted to eat lunch together. She knelt, phone clicking as she unlocked it. I touched her arm, whispering, Don't call. Please just get paper towels. She hesitated, then ran to the sink, grabbed a wad, dampened it, and returned, pressing it gently to my forehead. Her hands trembled. I could feel her worry, but I didn't want anyone to know. Not because I was scared, because I was too used to having no one stand with me, and I wasn't sure I could take it again if this time was no different. When I finally sat up, my back against the locker, the paper towel was soaked through. My head throbbed. I looked down at my hand, blood marked it clearly. The pain wasn't the worst part. The worst part was knowing this wasn't random. Someone wanted me quiet. Someone wanted me gone again. And I was starting to understand if I kept waiting for someone to protect me, all I'd be left with were scars. That night when I got home, the blood had already dried into a dark streak beneath my hairline. I had washed my face in the nurse's office, shoved the blood-stained shirt to the bottom of my backpack, and pulled up the collar of my sweater to hide the bandage. I said nothing to Erin except I'm fine and gave a nod when she insisted on giving me a ride. Our beige two-story house looked as peaceful as always, kitchen light still on the TV, murmuring some news channel in the background. I stepped in, met by the smell of roast meat and tomato sauce, Madison's favorite. Mom was setting out another glass on the dining table. Dad still wore his office shirt collar unbuttoned. Madison had her feet on the chair beside her, spinning her phone in hand, giggling at something on the screen. I stood there a moment before speaking. I'm home. Oh, Vic, Mom said without looking up. So quick. Madison's speech today was hilarious. Everyone burst out laughing. That part about having a forgettable sister, Dad chuckled, dropping a piece of meat on his plate. Brilliant. I had no idea you were so witty, Maddie. Madison smiled modestly. I just told the truth. The whole school thinks so. I tightened my grip on my bag strap. The bandage on my forehead stung with sweat. I thought if just one of them looked closely, just one glance, they'd see the swelling, the cut already turning purple. But no. I pulled out a chair and sat down. No one asked why I hadn't changed out of my gym shirt. No one asked why I wasn't eating. I sat there listening to them talk about Madison's upcoming yearbook photo shoot and the custom dress Mom ordered from a designer in Cedar Hill. I opened my mouth. Something happened in the locker room today. No one reacted right away. Dad kept chewing. Mom poured more water. Madison glanced over. Slipped again, that floor's slick. I was silent for a second, then nodded. Yeah, slipped. Because I knew what would happen if I told the truth. I'd seen Mom's eyes back when I argued with Madison in 9th grade. I'd heard Dad say, don't stir up trouble at home over petty things. I'd been taught that keeping the peace was the highest family value. But peace never protected me from being forgotten. After dinner, I washed the dishes. Madison went upstairs to FaceTime Jackson, though he was the one who made my scalp bleed barely half a day ago. I dried my hands, ready to retreat to my room when Mom called out. Vic, wait. Come here. I turned back. She opened a drawer, pulled out a small wine-red box, and placed it on the table. This is for you. Since next week's the final honors ceremony. I opened the lid. Inside was a necklace. Simple, but familiar. Very familiar. I flipped the pendant, overseeing the faded engraving. It's Grandma's, isn't it? The one Madison didn't want for her 16th birthday. Mom gave a soft smile. It didn't suit her. But for you, it's different. It's a family heirloom. From your great-grandmother. Keep it. I clenched my fist under the table. The last time I got something Madison refused, it was an old jacket she called vintage. Now it was a rejected piece of jewelry, dressed up as ancestral. I smiled the kind I'd mastered since childhood, just enough to avoid trouble. Thank you. I went upstairs, box in hand. That night, I set it on my desk. Under the desk lamp, I didn't see a keepsake. I saw proof of selective abundance, where I was always the second choice or the leftover choice. I opened my journal, flipped to a blank page, and wrote maybe I wasn't forgotten. They just keep me where I'm easiest to control. I closed the book and looked into the mirror. The white bandage stood out on my forehead. I peeled it off. The blood had dried, but the bruise was spreading. Madison could own every photo frame, but I was beginning to understand she couldn't stand me becoming clear-cut. And once I was no longer blurred, everything would change. 2 days after the incident in the locker room, I still went to school on time, still walked past the south hallway, like every other student, only this time, my steps were slower, my head slightly lowered, and my eyes kept flicking toward the corner where the security camera hung. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, some sign that everything had been recorded, or just the foolish hope that the cold sting on my cheek hadn't been forgotten during recess. I went to the library to avoid eating lunch alone. No one noticed me. Good. I wandered into the life skills section, flipping through books, as if I needed a legitimate reason to stay longer. Then I heard voices clearly from the computer tables. Male voices. Loud laughter. Familiar. Told you, Jackson was an idiot. If you want to mess with the girl, at least don't shove her right under the hallway camera. A chair scraped, then another voice joined in. Yeah, well, she deserved it. She doesn't even know she was caught on tape. Besides, she's just Madison's little sister. Nobody cares. I froze. The book slipped from my hand. My throat went dry. I had walked past that camera hundreds of times. Yet, it had never crossed my mind that night. I sat in my room, the desk lamp shining on the faint swelling on my cheek. I opened my laptop, unsure of what I was going to do, when a message popped up from a name I never thought I'd see again. Haley Greer. We'd been friends in 7th grade. But once Madison became the center of every party, Haley drifted into her orbit, and I vanished from the social map. Vic, I know what happened in the locker room, and I have something. The message came with a video file. This isn't from the school's camera. My friend filmed it from the parking lot that day. You need to see this. I opened the file. The footage was blurry and shaky, but Jackson's voice was unmistakable. Madison said the kid's overreacting. So we came to teach her that keeping quiet is better. Laughter. It was just a little shove. She felt like she got hit with a brick. I didn't stop the clip. I saved it onto an old USB drive. I walked to the bookshelf, and pulled down a dusty picture frame. 8th grade graduation, Madison in the center, radiant in a white dress, flowers in hand, the camera squarely on her face. And me half hidden behind an aunt's shoulder. I don't even remember who took the shot. But I remember the feeling no one told me where to stand. I just stood where space was left. I slid the photo out and set it next to the USB. I didn't want to be a shadow anymore. Just as I was about to shut my laptop, another email arrived. No name, no specific address, just anonymous source. Subject: behind the gym last Tuesday. I clicked. A still image. Captured from a hallway camera by the side door of the locker room. It was me, collapsed blood on my forehead under the harsh fluorescent light. The angle was slightly high off to the right, but clear enough to show I hadn't fallen on my own. Behind me, Jackson's back, and 2 others blurred in the frame, walking quickly away. I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded not from fear, but from the sudden proof that my pain was real. One line was typed beneath the image. No signature, don't stay silent. You're not the only one. I printed the photo, slipped it into a plastic sleeve, and tucked it into my backpack, along with the USB. I didn't know who sent it, and I didn't need to right now. I opened my laptop, drafted a new email to the school's security system manager, Mr. Landon Green, the man I'd seen sitting in the back of the auditorium at every parent meeting. Subject request to verify hallway camera footage from behind the gym last Tuesday. Body, I believe a serious incident was recorded. I request confirmation if the video still exists in the system and ask for immediate backup to prevent deletion. Thank you. Victoria Ainsley. I didn't hit send. I saved it as a draft. But this time my hands didn't shake. I sat before the mirror looking at myself, the bruise fading, but my eyes sharper than ever. For the first time, I didn't feel like I existed only to be someone else's backdrop. And if the camera wouldn't stay silent, neither would I. I stayed up past 1 a.m. that night, staring at my drafts folder. The email subject was still there: report of school violence, urgent, confidential. The attachments were 3 things: the clip Haley had sent, the surveillance photo from an unknown source, and a secretly recorded audio file I'd extracted from Jackson's words out in the parking lot, along with a detailed statement I'd spent 3 nights writing. My finger hovered over the send button. Just one click. A light tap. But I couldn't do it. Not because I was afraid of Jackson. Not because I was intimidated by Madison. But because I knew once I sent it, everything would break. My family wasn't built to face the truth. It was built on silence, layer upon layer, each one stronger than the last, like how my mother would lay a tablecloth over every scratch. I closed the laptop, saved the email, then turned off the light and lay still in the dark. For the first time in years, I didn't feel weak for not speaking up yet. I felt like I was waiting for the right moment. The next morning, the first notification on my phone was a post from a Darlington student group. A meme was spreading an image from last year, me slipping in the gym when my shoelaces got tangled. Caption: someone help Victoria, must been a gentle breeze. Underneath were nearly 50 comments. A third were crying laugh emojis. Some used the phrase telescope to mock how I often stood taking pictures alone in the backyard. But what made me freeze was the top highlighted comment in blue from @MadsQueen, the official account of Madison. My sister has always had a talent for unintentional comedy. But still kinda cute, right? I didn't feel humiliated. I felt something clear Madison knew, and she was testing my limits to see how far I'd go before I exploded. I took a screenshot, printed it, folded it, and tucked it into my notebook between my 8th grade graduation photo and the picture of me by the basketball bleachers, the only time I'd ever been shoved into the center of a frame. I wasn't journaling to vent anymore. I was building a case. That afternoon, I saw Mr. Landon, the head of security, walk into the vice principal's office. At the same time, Aaron, the volleyball team's co-captain, whispered to me in the hallway. I heard someone filed an anonymous report about that day. Sounds like the school board already knows. I said nothing, just nodded. In my hoodie pocket was the USB I'd prepared, identical to the one in my draft email, but this time I kept it separate. A reminder I didn't need them to believe me right away, but I wouldn't give them a reason to forget. On Thursday night, my mom knocked on my door, holding a white envelope. "Sweetie, the school's going to re-interview all the students in the sports teams next week. Do you know anything about what's going around?" I looked at her, pen still in hand, my English essay half finished in front of me. "I've heard," I replied. She frowned. "This doesn't involve you, right? I mean, Madison's preparing for her college interviews. I don't want you getting pulled into things that will make the atmosphere at home any more tense." "The atmosphere at home's already suffocating, Mom." The words slipped out before I could stop them. She froze, then just sighed. "You're always too sensitive, Victoria. Some things aren't worth making a fuss about." I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I just watched her leave, then closed the door. I opened my laptop. The screen lit up, the cursor still blinking in front of the word send. I didn't hesitate this time. I moved the mouse, and I clicked. No shaking hands. No heartbreak. No fear. I wasn't sending the report to get revenge. I was sending it because for the first time in my life, I chose not to be silent. The hearing was held on Tuesday afternoon at 4:30. The air in the school boardroom felt colder than I'd expected, even though spring had arrived outside. Rows of metal chairs with padded seats lined the space. A projector screen hung at the back, and a long table draped in ivory cloth separated me from the people who once laughed when I fell. I arrived 10 minutes early, carrying a small silver USB and an envelope of printed photos. I didn't need anyone to come with me. I didn't need anyone to speak for me. Madison sat across from me, beige cashmere sweater, curled hair, just enough makeup to look natural. Beside her was Jackson, arms crossed, looking like he couldn't wait for the meeting to end so he could get to dinner. My parents sat in the corner, my mother clutching her purse, tight, my father staring at the projector, as if focus alone could keep it from turning on. The board that day had 4 members: Principal Miller, Vice Principal Lee, Guidance Counselor, Mrs. Carson, and someone I'd never met, Ems. Evelyn Porter, representing the District Education Board. She was the one who spoke first. "Victoria Ainsley, you have 10 minutes. You may begin whenever you're ready." I said nothing. I walked to the computer, plugged in the USB, and opened the only video file. No introduction. No commentary. No background music. Only laughter. Footsteps. The sound of my head hitting metal. Jackson's voice from the parking lot recording Madison said she's being dramatic. So we came to teach her that staying quiet's better. No one moved. Madison wasn't smiling anymore. Jackson leaned back slightly, his hands gripping the chair arms. When the video ended, I turned and stood straight. This is what happened to me. I'm not here to beg anyone to believe me. I'm here to ask, do you think this deserves silence? A long pause followed. Miss Porter scribbled something down, then looked up. Thank you, Victoria. We've also received corroborating witness statements. She nodded. The door opened. Erin walked in, first, hands clenched, eyes forward. I saw her face, injured after practice. I helped her stop the bleeding. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just said, "Don't call anyone." Next was Haley Hare, tied back, voice soft but steady. I sent the clip I had because I couldn't stay silent anymore. I knew they were wrong. Then Coach Shepard. I didn't speak up because I was afraid of losing my position. But now I see silence makes you complicit. My mother lowered her gaze. My father twisted his wedding ring, not looking at me. Madison began, her tone dripping with college admissions polish. I was truly shocked. I had no idea what happened until everything blew up. If I had known, I would have stopped it. I looked her dead in the eye. You knew. You commented on the meme about me. You called me cute. Madison's mouth opened, but no words came. Mrs. Porter pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose, her voice calm but firm. We've seen enough. After reviewing the evidence, statements, and cooperation of all parties, the school board rules as follows. 1. Jackson Miller is suspended for 30 days, stripped of all sports positions, and must complete a behavioral rehabilitation program before returning. 2. Madison Ainsley is placed under internal investigation for collusion and possible intimidation of a whistleblower. She is temporarily suspended from all student representative activities, including her role as media club president and school ambassador. 3. Darlington High will form a joint student-faculty committee to rebuild anti-bullying policies led and designed by students themselves. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just nodded, not out of satisfaction, but because finally someone had listened. I slipped the USB into my jacket pocket, and walked out without looking back. I returned to school on Monday after the hearing. Darlington's hallways still rang with the same old bell, students still crowded between the lockers, and the faint smell of photocopied paper still lingered in the admin wing. But the air had changed. Jackson no longer showed up in P.A. His name had been erased from the record board outside the coach's office. Faces that once laughed when I fell now kept their eyes down as they passed. Madison still came to school, but her stride had lost its firmness. She sat alone in the cafeteria, once packed with friends, idly stirring the ice in her plastic cup, no one stopping to speak. I didn't feel triumphant. Just lighter. On the third day, I opened my locker and found a small folded note tucked under my biology book. Slanted handwriting, blue ink. Thank you for standing up. Don't stop. No name. No mark. I held the note for a long time. That feeling, it wasn't victory or applause, it was acknowledgement. Even in silence. Even from someone unseen. I slipped it into the back pocket of my notebook, alongside everything I had kept all this time. The following week, the school hosted a community seminar, an annual event, but this year, with something new, students could speak about school safety and personal experiences. I was invited as the opening speaker. I stepped onto the stage in the large auditorium where the spotlight usually shone on representatives like Madison, but this time it was on me. The slide behind me showed an old photo from 8th grade. Madison in a white dress, front and center, curled hair, smiling brightly. I stood at the far edge, part of my face hidden in someone's shadow. I turned toward the picture for a moment, then faced the microphone. For years, I was a background character in my own life. The one cut from the frame. The one never called by name. The one seen as weak but well-behaved. And I believed that was true until I bled. I paused, took a breath. But blood is something you can't fake. And I realized I have the right to exist even if no one wants me there. The room was silent. No rushed applause. Just real attention. I ended with a quote from my old notebook. Silence is not peace. It's the tool of the powerful to control the powerless. I stepped off the stage to steady, honest clapping, not loud, but real. At the foot of the stairs, an elderly woman was waiting. White hair, ash gray cardigan, eyes, damp but unwavering. She gently took my hand. You spoke for my granddaughter. She was forced to stay silent too, but now she's not. I didn't know what to say. I just squeezed her hand like I had always wished someone would do for me. That night, I opened the first email I'd ever written, subject line report of school violence. I didn't need to reread it. I just hit forward, sent a copy to myself, and typed a new subject, proof that I was once afraid, but I walked through it. I printed the email, folded it, tucked it into the last page of my notebook, right above the line I had once written, maybe I was never forgotten. They were just keeping me in the easiest place to control. My solo photo exhibition took place on a chilly Friday afternoon in the side hall of the Brookhaven City Library. No ribbon cutting, no lively music, no free pastries or juice. Only light, frames, and a very real silence. I titled the exhibition Blur No More. Those 3 words were handwritten in white chalk on a blackboard at the entrance. Partly because I didn't want anything too formal. Partly because I had been used to living unnoticed, so now simplicity was enough. The first photo, hung right by the door, was from 6th grade Madison, accepting the spelling bee trophy, me standing beside her, my face blurred from camera shake. My mother took it. It had hung in our living room for 3 years, but always shifted to the right to hide half my figure. Beneath the photo, I added a note I used to believe. If I stood still long enough, people would turn back. Turns out they just kept walking. The rest of the frames captured small moments: a student sitting alone in the schoolyard, a hand resting on a bench near a carved name, a mirror reflecting someone not smiling among friends posing for a picture. They weren't Instagram pretty, but they were real. And someone among those who came nodded when they saw themselves in them. I hadn't advertised much, just a few flyers around school and some emails to former teachers. Still, people came. A few strangers. A few familiar faces. I saw my 10th grade chemistry teacher, the one who misread my name twice in a row, standing in front of the third photo for a long time. Silent. Then quietly nodding at me before leaving. I saw Haley, she brought her mother. They stood close, but their eyes no longer avoided mine. Before leaving, Haley wrote in the guest book, "I wish I'd been brave sooner. But I'm grateful you didn't wait for anyone to stand up." The last photo hung separately deep in the corner of the room, where the light hit straight on, casting no shadow. It was me. No one else in the frame. No messy background. No blur effect. I had taken it with a tripod on an afternoon after a light rain. Black sweater jeans, standing in the middle of an empty basketball court. Camera in hand, eyes straight into the lens. No smile. No bowed head. Just me whole and not asking anyone's permission to exist. Below it, I wrote only one line for the first time I wasn't behind the camera. And I didn't need anyone to frame the shot for me. When most guests had left, I noticed Talia, a smaller, younger student, often teased for stuttering. I'd seen her once in the nurse's office after a group had locked her in the PE storage room. She stood a long time before the final photo. Silent. Just looking. I walked over. Didn't break the space she was keeping for herself. Just stood there. After a while, she whispered, voice so soft, I almost didn't catch it. You don't need to say anything anymore, do you? I glanced at her, then smiled. No. What mattered has already been heard. She nodded, eyes still fixed on the photo. I didn't ask if she saw herself in it because I knew she did. That night I gathered every note guests had left, placing them carefully in a small wooden box. I set that box next to my old notebook, the one filled with words no one had read. Now I no longer needed to write in it. I knew exactly who I was, and it no longer depended on whether anyone believed it or not. Victoria's story is a powerful reminder that silence is not always safety. Sometimes it only makes us invisible in our own lives. By stepping out of the blur, Victoria not only reclaimed her voice, but also inspired others who had been pushed to the margins. In real life, there are moments when we must stand up not for revenge, but to declare we deserve to be present, to be heard, and no one has the right to crop us out of the frame of our own life. What do you think about Victoria's journey if it were you? Would you stay silent or stand up like she did? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more deep real-life stories about